Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock a.m. You can join today's board meeting via phone. Dial 971-254-3149, conference ID 736-023-979#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Well, as you have no doubt by now noticed, if you are an online visitor to our meeting, or if you're watching Jane's live stream, we are not at the Tillamook County Courthouse. We are not in the Board of Commissioners room. We are, in fact, at the Port of Tillamook Bay as a part of the Able Readiness 4 event that is happening, and we are in one of the tents here, which would be used in the event of an emergency. There's a lot happening here. There are generators running in the background. There are various noises, so we do hope that you're able to hear us. This is a great opportunity for us to test what it would be like if we had a major emergency and we were getting information out to you, the public, and what that might look like. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we ask your grace as we work with the technology and the sound that we have here today. Okay. So we have called this meeting to order, and we do have a lot of guests with us today, and so I do want to invite everyone who's in the tent with us today to please sign the guest list at the back of the room so that we know everyone who joined us today. And I'm going to ask if we have any public comments online or in the room this morning.
We do not.
We do not. Okay, perfect. Well, then we will begin, as we traditionally do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, there it is, directly behind me. Commissioner Bell, would you please?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Having identified that we have no public comment today, we have no non-agenda items, and I'm really pleased to say that we're going to start today with a presentation, and we have with us today Fairbors Paksharesht, the Director of the Oregon Department of Human Services, and he's going to present on the Oregon Department of Human Services Office of Resiliency and Emergency Management, Able Readiness 4 presentation, which is what we're here doing today. So welcome. We are so pleased to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Starr. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioner Bell and Yamamoto. Honored to be in your presence, in the presence of the emergency management staff and also the Tillamook community. I try to be brief and really appreciate having this opportunity to be in front of you all. As I'm seeing, and I hope that you can see the presentation as well. So where we start with is basically our commitment to equity. And when we talk about equity, our Equity North Star within the Oregon Department of Human Services is really about, when you go to there are about 4 pillars to that Equity North Star. And if I had to summarize that, it basically is about everyone in Oregon, regardless of race, disability, identity, or place, has the ability to achieve whole well-being for themselves, their families, and their communities. And when we talk about whole well-being, we're simply talking about having those basic necessities of life. Having access to clean air and water, having access to child care, health care, transportation, education, but most importantly, having a connection to the community. It's the community that makes things work. And so that's what we mean by whole well-being, and that's really the focus of the Equity North Star. We can go to the next slide, please. The next slide is basically presenting from our perspective, the 3 priorities that we see within the Department of Human Services. The first priority for us is the work that we all do every day. And I would say that this applies to any organizations, public or private. And that first priority is we need to do the core work of our organization well. I would think it's the same for all of you. You got to keep, for lack of a better term, the trains running, and we need to keep them running on time. The second bucket is something that public agencies are generally not paying a whole lot of attention to, and that is being able to prepare for and respond to emergencies and disasters. Tillamook County is very good at that because of your experience, etc. But frankly, the 2020 wildfires caught us flat-footed. We were not prepared to respond to that. We did not have the capability for that. And the Office of Resilience and Emergency Management was established right after the Labor Day fires in 2020. Today, we have about 50 people that are operating within that office. I'll talk about that a bit. But unless we do that, and when we hired Ed Flick, the director of that office, who today is in Hawaii, helping with the situation in Lahaina, I also asked him to prepare us as an agency and as a state for the Cascadia event, something that we would never hope to happen. But as I was just talking outside to one of the reporters, is if we don't prepare for this, then we would find ourselves in the same place. And then the third piece is helping create the future of human services in our case, because if you don't do that, it will be created for us. So those are the 3 primary areas that we're focused on. Next slide, please. This slide basically shows the difference between response and recovery in the state, both response and recovery functions based on emergency management. And when you talk about response, we're talking about core functions that Oregon Department of Human Services has. Response functions 6 and 11, which is food, water, and shelter. And at the same time, providing first aid, providing some of those basic necessities. And when you talk about recovery, while response might be a relatively short period of time, recovery can take years. We had over 4,000, if you can go to the next slide, we had over 4,000 people that were...
Did I go too far? I'm sorry.
The next one. Yeah, that one right there. Thank you. We had over 4,000 families and individuals that were uprooted by the 2020 wildfires. You can see now that data is a bit dated. It's about a year old. Based on that, which was in 2022, we still had about 1,700 people that were receiving services. Today, they're in the hundreds as far as disaster case management. And many, almost 80 hotels that we dealt with, because this all happened during COVID, where you could not do anything. So it was, we had to put people in hotels to keep them safe. Yes. We had to provide 3 hot meals on a daily basis to make sure that they were safe. And then, I'm sure you know this and you've dealt with this, but when someone has to leave their home in a hurry, without even being able to take their identification. Imagine how long it takes to establish all of the connections. And public systems are complex, they're bureaucratic, they're not easy to navigate. And that's why we basically put in place what we refer to as disaster case managers that help people get through these things. And even today, we have several hundred people that are still waiting to get into permanent housing. Even though FEMA was responsive, it took a while to get to where we are today. So and that's how recovery will take. And we also need to pay attention to language. The other reason that we basically transitioned from referring to ourselves as DHS to ODHS is, especially in Southern Oregon, especially with the Hispanic population, it was easy to confuse us with Department of Homeland Security. And because of that, there was a reluctance to actually come to us to seek help. It's unfortunate, but that's what it was, and that's why we basically started referring to ourselves as Oregon Department of Human Services to separate ourselves from Department of Homeland Security. We can go to the next slide, please. When you talk about having the capability to be able to do response and do recovery, you need a certain capacity, you need a certain number of people to be able to do exercises like this. Again, today we have about 50 people. The organization is not necessarily funded. We did have a request in during the last legislative session. Unfortunately, it did not make it to the funding piece. We are hopeful that perhaps in the 2024 short session, or maybe in the 2025, really hope during the 2024 short session we get the funding that we need to be able to stand this function up. I was talking briefly with Commissioner Yamamoto before this event, acknowledging that it takes a while for everyone at the state level to catch up with the need that exists and the critical nature of being prepared for these things. Just about 6 weeks ago, I was in Middleburg, Virginia, with about 5 of my colleagues, including Director of Department of Human Services from Hawaii. We were talking about the need to have a unit like Orem, and they were envious of what we had in Oregon. And unfortunately, a few weeks after that, this disaster happens in Hawaii. Now again, credit to Ed Flick, Chad Knowles, his deputy, and the entire Orem team. We immediately were able to ship 3 mobile showers to Hawaii to help. That's a little thing that we could do. And again, some emergency management leaders are gathered there. And you might have even noticed now some in Hawaii, what should we have done? What could we have done? Why didn't we do that? Again, events like this help us prepare for that so that we won't have to go there. Go to the next slide, please. So when you look at what's happening here today, this is really, again, this is a big education for me. We did something like this in Salem about 2 years ago at the airport. And it really brought to me the consciousness of what happens still, just theoretical consciousness of what happens if I'm one of those survivors that perhaps have become disconnected from a family member, perhaps have become disconnected from my pets, etc. There is a place that I need to go to be documented so that I could be reconnected with my loved ones, etc. And then all of the things that's needed to be basically even just temporarily housed there, to have access to showers, to have access to food, to have access to communication. And this is what this setup provides, again, for a short period of time. And our goal is to connect with local communities, with counties, to be of service to you all. At the end of the day, the work happens through the community. It's the community that knows best the needs of the community, and it's the community that has the wisdom about how to best manage those needs. We see ourselves now and in the future to be of service to you and just be a resource to all of you so that you can deliver on what your community needs. So one event in Salem, Oregon 2 years ago, one event in Manzanita last year, and we now have this. Our next stop would be Lincoln County. Next slide, please. And again, on this slide, then you can see the overview of what really needs to, what has happened, there needs to be training, there needs to be seminars and workshops. Some of those have already taken place. The deployment drill, which is, kind of what's happening here today, the full setup that you see here, the recovery, the maintenance, and the storage, and all of those that needs to happen. So also in this picture, we can see Randy from Tillamook County, and also Dave from our own logistic team that are standing right there next to that mobile unit. And let's go to the next slide. And this last slide really is just about who will come to a setup like this. If you already have family members, if you don't need support, you don't need to come here. But again, people with minor injury or sometimes significant injuries, people with who are basically missing their medications. Again, if you have left quickly, you did not even have time to take your medications with you. People who are having issues and complications communicating their needs. People, especially after a disaster, they're tired, they're cold, they're hungry, they need food, they need support. This setup provides that. And then finally, as I said, those people who are separated from their family members, from pets, etc. So that's basically my presentation. Again, I want to take a moment to thank the commissioners for your consciousness, for your support of Orem, and for the support of this concept. We can use your help as we begin to raise the collective consciousness about the importance of preparing for disasters, for preparing for emergencies and crises. I think we all know that the world that we live in today, I've lived in Oregon for over 40 years, and I remember rain starting around September all the way to May. And this has changed now. We did not have 104-degree weather. This is something that we're going to have to live with. And today's environment requires a different level of consciousness and preparation than it did 20 years ago. I hope that we can collectively embrace that, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. So, commissioners, questions and comments, if you're willing to just sort of have a conversation, we'd love to do that. Commissioner Bell?
I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you personally, and also thank Orem. It's remarkable. This is just, it's a dream come true for us, really. It's I became aware of the Cascadia subduction zone and the threat to the Oregon coast in 2011. I worked for the local paper, and when the Tohoku earthquake happened in Japan, all the things that we learned from that, and when it became clear that the Oregon coast is in the same danger as Japan, that all of a sudden the need to prepare was I think everybody was very aware of it in the days after that, and some communities really dove in and worked on preparedness. And it's I remember vividly hearing some of the after event conclusions of people who had survived in Japan, and them saying that the people who survived were the people who had prepared and practiced. The people who had a plan, who knew their evacuation route, had practiced, etc. And so that has always been my goal for Tillamook County, for our coastline, to be that prepared. And so I'm sorry that I heard you say earlier in your presentation that it was the 2020 wildfires that made this a real priority for the state of Oregon, and I'm sorry that was the event, because certainly that was very difficult and tragic. And this is a wonderful thing to have come out of that. So I'm proud of our state that we learned from that and moved forward to take action, to be proactive, so that the next time we have a serious disaster, we will be better prepared. And I'm really so grateful for your partnership in Tillamook County. That we got a little tour this morning, and this is amazing. This is an amazing opportunity for our community to respond to disaster and recover. And so I'm just very, very grateful and for the partnership and the help, and grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Bell. I think one of our challenges is to see ourselves, regardless of where we live in Oregon, whether in the Valley or in Eastern Oregon, as connected to you. I'm part of the same sense of urgency needs to live within our hearts, because we are all together in this thing.
Commissioner?
Yes, so thank you so much for being here, you and the Orem team and all. When I got the tour this morning, this is a mini disaster area where the county can come back together and start to recover. You know that Tillamook County is the most disaster-prone county in the state of Oregon. We're used to handling disasters, and it's because of that. And I saw Linda Kozlowski here earlier. We have over a quarter century of emergency preparedness. The Emergency Volunteer Corps of Nehalem Bay was one of the first in the state, I believe. And they have come such a long ways in that over 25 years of history that they've been doing this. And one of the things that I'm so proud of is that we have a lot of other emergency volunteer corps active today in Tillamook County. I'm on the board of the South Tillamook County EVC. And they are just so willing to share. They tell us, don't do it on your own and reinvent the wheel. We've already been through this, and they're so willing to share. So I think today we are probably one of the best prepared counties in the state of Oregon. But because we have to be, you talked about the Cascadia subduction zone, and that is everyone's biggest nightmare. It's not if that happens, it's when that happens. Tillamook County and all coastal communities, Tillamook County will have literally hundreds of tiny communities all up and down Tillamook County. They're going to be cut off from roads and travel and food and medications. So people wonder, well, so why are you doing this here at the Port of Tillamook Bay? Well, this is going to be in a Cascadia style event. This will be probably the only operating airport on the Oregon coast. And we've got a great partnership here with Nearspace Corporation. They do such great work, and with drones in particular. And so even though this area could be cut off from the rest of the communities in Tillamook County, using drones, they can actually airdrop supplies and medications and first aid kits to people that are stranded in these small little communities all up and down the Oregon coast. So, I mean, this is, and when I toured this morning, you guys put it up in 3 hours, and you've got showers and mess tents and a command center and places to sleep. It's my understanding that we had like 40 people sleeping here at the airport in these tents and all. Last night was not the best night. I think it rained a little bit, and I think we have to get used to wind. And now, as I was talking to people, that's why it's important to do these events in actual locations. If AOC, the Association of Oregon Counties, our favorite saying is, if you've seen one Oregon county, you've seen one Oregon county. And that is so true. The wind was blowing last night, and so the ballast things that you have to hold the tents from blowing away and things are currently filled with water. But during a mass event, water is not going to be available. It's going to be a precious commodity. So they're thinking about buckets and shovels so that we can fill those with dirt to keep the tents from blowing away. That's why these types of events, I feel, are so important, because every region is going to be a little different. So again, we appreciate you being here. It's just a great event. We're learning a lot. I'm hoping you're learning a lot. And as you continue to roll these out across the state, I think you're going to learn again. Each area is going to be different. Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. It's important to have you here.
Thank you, Commissioner Yamamoto. We can learn a whole lot from you at Tillamook County. our reporter friend Don was asking me, what did we do before Orem? I said we did tabletop exercises. That doesn't get you or get us what we need to be prepared for these events. And naturally, all of this stuff requires investment. You can look at it as cost. The way that I frame it is really like purchasing insurance. You would never hope to use it, but if you don't buy it, you're not going to be able to be protected. So from my perspective, this is our fairly basic insurance for preparing for Cascadia. And again, thank you for allowing us to have this partnership with you.
I will just echo things that my fellow commissioners have said. We're very, very happy to have you with us. We're very thankful that you all have brought this amazing investment to Tillamook County and brought the actual event to try it here. Yesterday, I wasn't out here for setup because we were actually doing a tabletop exercise in the county related to cybersecurity. And that tabletop exercise was exceptionally helpful to us in part because we had already been through a cyber attack. And so not only was it a tabletop, it was also a bit of an after action and a reminder, and we were able to just call back to the actual experience to make our tabletop more rich and useful. So I think this moving to actually putting up the tents and doing the work and sleeping here gives that opportunity, as you said, to move beyond a tabletop for this type of experience and to really to try it and see what happens. My next suggestion would be let's do it in January, right? Because we certainly know that the likelihood of any type of disaster could happen at any time of year. And what it's like to be doing this in Tillamook County today with a light rain, a week, just a slight breeze and some sunshine would be very different than doing this in the midst of a storm. I was thinking about Southern California this week as they had, I think Hurricane Hillary, which became Tropical Storm Hillary, passed through and they had an earthquake in the middle of it. You know, it's thinking about how bad could this be and what are the other learnings. So I invite you to come back this winter and do it again. I think that would be super fun. And I will probably not be here for it, but I think you know. I'll put on my rain gear and I'll come out. We'll play because I think that's another.
And we'll play.
We'll play, right?
I like that.
You know, we have to figure out what we don't know that we don't know, and I think that was one of the really amazing things of yesterday's conversation about cybersecurity. Is we learned a lot about what we didn't know that we didn't know by having to walk through it. You know, same thing with this. We're learning what we don't know that we don't know. So thank you for being here. This is amazing. I will just really hope that more money comes through so there can be greater investment. I'm excited that Lincoln County will have the same experience that we're having, and I really look forward and hope for a day that each one of our communities can have this same investment, because as Commissioner Yamamoto said, in the event of a Cascadia event, we will lose our bridges, we will lose our ability to travel north to south and south to north throughout our county, and we will have communities that are islands. So I look forward to a day when we can have this investment in every community, and working with Orem to make that happen. We're excited that Orem has been stood up and just the resources are available. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Scar. My hope is that we will have an evolution of consciousness about the importance of emergency management and the same sense of urgency that you all feel. We'd love to come back in January and do it in rain, in wind, in snow. Even in our buildings, a couple of times a year or even more, we do fire drills.
Right.
That would be dependent on the type of funding that we get and whether or not we can at least sustain the present capabilities. And we can use your help with that. Again, I think there are a lot of competing priorities in the state, and unless preparation and ability to be able to have capabilities like this and more to respond, we are not going to have the type of resources that we need. So I'm hopeful, and again, thank you so much for allowing me this time.
Absolutely. We'll
Thank
have
you.
to. When we do it in the wind and the rain, let's get our senator and our representative. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we will move on to our regularly scheduled items, our board agenda. I know the things that you all came for because they're really fun. Okay, just Jumping off from the presentation we just had, we have item number 6, which is discussion and consideration of a resolution in the matter of proclaiming the month of September as National Emergency Preparedness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon. We have Randy Thorpe, our Director of Emergency Management. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a great opportunity to present this proclamation to you today. It was due to good planning on my part. No, just kidding.
Great timing.
But what I've got before you that I would like for consideration and approval is proclaiming the month of September as National Emergency Preparedness Month in Tillamook County. September is the National Emergency Preparedness Month throughout the county, but having Tillamook County identify it as the county's month too, I think will be very helpful, because as we all know, preparedness starts by the individuals and the communities, and I think by recognizing this month coming up September as Emergency Preparedness Month, it'll help continue families and people to become more and more prepared for that. It's a great proclamation, I think. The Ready campaign for the National Preparedness Month, they're working they always have a theme, and this theme for this month is focused on preparing older adults for disasters, specifically older adults for communities that are disproportionately impacted by all hazard events. So that's kind of what their focus is on a national level for that. But I think, coupled with this, let's just keep the ball rolling. And I think by proclaiming September as our county month of preparedness, I think will just help keep the excitement going and keeping people moving forward. So if you have any questions on it or concerns, I'll be happy to chat with you about them.
Thank you, Randy. Commissioners, questions and comments?
I am happy to proclaim September as National Emergency Preparedness Month in Tillamook County. And I just want to take a minute to thank Randy for his excellent work as Tillamook County Emergency Manager, and thank you for building this relationship with Oregon Department of Human Services Office of Resilience and Emergency Management, because you have really been the key that opened the door to this relationship, and the entire county will benefit from this, and we have a lot to thank you for.
Well,
and also, I would like to take a minute to talk about the exercise we have planned in October. In October in Tillamook County, we will be doing a shakeout exercise. And I think this would be a good chance to talk about that, because people will be watching this meeting. So we're going to do a shakeout exercise in Tillamook County in the tsunami preparedness or tsunami evacuation in the communities. All along the coastline, we have communities that are in the tsunami zone, and so we're doing in conjunction with the shakeout, the Great American Shakeout. The idea being that at, I think it's 10:18 on October 18th, we observe 3 minutes of a virtual earthquake, and thereafter the communities that are in the tsunami zone will evacuate. And so we're working on that planning now. The last time that kind of exercise was done in Tillamook was probably 10 years ago, and it should be annual. It probably should be biannual. It's the sort of thing we should be doing in every season. We should be doing it in the dark. We should be we should really need to get that going. And so I'm delighted that we're planning that for October, and I just want to kick it back to you to for whatever else you want to say about that, including how people who are watching this today can contact us and get involved if they're interested.
Right. What it is that they're going to, like I say, combine this, and what we want to do is it will kind of test the system on knowledge of people, knowing where the evacuation routes are, where the assembly points are, and so we have the little evacuation maps and everything else, and so we want to make sure that those routes are actually accessible and people can use them. A lot of those routes were made not by out there walking and making sure where they're at. So this will really help us determine whether or not our routes are correct and it's the best way to get to our different assembly points. And the key is going to be, it's going to be a lot of emphasis put on the individual communities. to set that up, because we're going to want to make sure that people are safe while they're evacuating, because we're going to be evacuating across Highway 101 at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we got to make sure that it's a very safe thing. And a lot of the planning is done. It's going to be done in our TC4 group that's meeting. We're meeting again tomorrow. Thursday. Yes, tomorrow. And that's the whole meeting's agenda, basically, is to keep looking forward and moving forward on doing this. I think we've succeeded just in the fact that we're talking about it, and the different communities are starting moving forward. So we've already succeeded in my book, because we're talking about, we're planning, and we're moving forward. We'll probably identify a lot of gaps and a lot of issues, and that's exactly what you want to do with exercises, just like you said, Commissioner Bell. That's the whole thing and then next time we have it, hopefully we've addressed those issues and concerns. Like I say, it's not going to be perfect this time, but like I say, I love that this group is thinking about it. This was all their idea, to plan this, because they wanted to do something countywide. And that group of volunteers with those communities are they're dynamite. They're really pulling together. They're really pushing forward as a group. And again, I saw that yesterday here. Those groups, that's why it was 3 hours instead of the whole day. It was our groups, it was our volunteer groups that did that in this community. Fire departments, road department was here. I mean, we had a group, and so we're moving in the right direction. It's just great. I just need to stand out of the way and let it go. I mean, this rock is rolling fast in this county, and it's great to see it happen. And I love the support that we're getting from the commissioners, and I love the support we're getting from Orem. I mean, I've got a lot of new best buddies right now, and they make me look good, so I like it. And so, again, this shakeout I think will be good. We're going to probably be working on some releases. We've got some press releases that will start going out in September. That was our idea. It was not do it too soon and do it. It's also going to be a test of our Everbridge system. I'm going to be sending out alerts warning people that we're going to have a test. And then the day of it, I'm going to be sending it out to everybody that sign up. So this is a plug. Everybody sign up for Tillamook Alerts. Go on the website, Emergency Management. You'll find it. Please sign up, because I can't send you alerts if you don't sign up. That's a shameless plug. But anyway, and that's another thing this will test is VR alerting system, because again, we may or may not have that availability. But if I can get those alerts out before everything goes down, that's going to be another way to help us get that word out. Plus, so it'll test that way too. So, like I say, we've already succeeded because we're planning and we're moving forward, and that's a great thing. So, I'm very happy, and I'm very happy that Commissioner Bell is involved in those meetings too, so they can see the county is very supportive of the volunteer groups here and the preparedness efforts that all of them are making. So,
Thank you. Commissioner?
Randy, this proclamation is very timely, and I want to thank you, because I think you probably had some sort of a hand in bringing Orem here today. And,
yeah, I threatened him.
Well, there you go. Appreciate that very much. I think this has been a great exercise, one that we're all learning from. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think this emergency preparedness proclamation is a great idea. We definitely want and need as a community to be talking about this every day. And I think we go through waves of it, when some disaster happens somewhere, it becomes top of mind and we begin to take some steps forward, and then everything else sort of floods in behind it, and life gets busy and we lose focus again. And so I think having the proclamation followed by the Great American Shakeout participation in October, I hope that we'll keep planning something, whether there's a monthly touch point or whether it's every 2 month touch point, but something that keeps it at top of mind for all of us, because there are so many things that we're all tasked with doing every day, and we need to make sure our preparedness stays at the top of the list as one of those things. So thank you for everything you're doing to get here. I'll look forward to the Great American Shakeout. That will be a wonderful thing for us to participate in and to learn from. So thank you for that.
Commissioner, if
Yes,
I may.
absolutely.
One more thing. So Randy spoke about TC4, which is Tillamook County.
Community Core Council.
Our group lead on that is deciding that we need a new name. So, have you come up with a new name yet, Don?
I'm working on it.
It's Tillamook County Citizen
Community Core Council.
Community Core Council. And that's they decided that that's kind of like a mouthful, and they want to come up with a really unique name.
Took
So.
me years to memorize that. You can't change
Oh,
that.
okay.
But you're retiring.
I know.
That's right. So it's all right.
All right.
It's all right.
So this is a great opportunity for us to do a little recruitment for
Yes.
TC4. So TC4 is the group of volunteers that are coming from all over Tillamook County to work on emergency preparedness. And as Randy said, we have emergency preparedness groups in most of the counties, most of the coastal communities. Not everyone, but most of them. And they're in various stages of preparedness. To overuse that word. And the Nehalem Bay Emergency Volunteer Corps has been working hard on this since 2010, so they're in great shape. Other communities have just begun. Some of them have been working on it for a couple years. But what we really need is people in central Tillamook County to get involved in the effort, and people particularly in Tillamook to get involved in the effort. The Central Bay community is the least organized, so that's one of our goals, is to get the Tillamook area organized with a preparedness group. And these groups they're largely volunteer-led and supported by the county and supported by the cities and the fire districts, etc. So we really need more people to get involved. And you can reach out to Randy, you can reach out to me, you can get on the website, you can learn more about our evacuation exercise, the Great Shakeout, but also just how to get involved, because there are a lot of important things happening in Tillamook County, but there's really nothing more important than this. And if we have a disaster, we're all going to be aware of just how very important this work is. So I invite people to get involved.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I think there is a tendency to think, particularly in the central part of the county, that we're pretty urbanized and that our emergency responders will be here to make sure this all happens. And I think the recognition and realization that particularly in something of the size of a Cascadia-style event, we have no idea who will survive, who will be available, who will be in county when it happens, who will be out of county when it happens. And the more people that are prepared and trained and ready to step in and be active participants in our response, the more likelihood that we will have survivors and that we will be able to handle this for ourselves for the 2 weeks to 2 months that we're expecting it to be on our own on the coast, right? I mean, we know that we're going to be isolated. So we really do need people to get involved and to be prepared to think about what will happen to me and how can I help in the response if I'm the one that's still standing. So kind of a grim way to look at it perhaps, but I think a really important one. You can't expect that someone will come to save you. We all have to be prepared to save ourselves and to reach out and help save our neighbors. So please do get involved. Okay. I think we are ready for a motion. Would you like to read the proclamation?
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay.
I was wondering if you wanted me to do that.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, in the matter of proclaiming the month of September as National Emergency Preparedness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon, this being resolution number R-23-017. This matter came before the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners on August 23, 2023, at the request of Randy Thorpe, Tillamook County Emergency Management Director. The board, being fully apprised, finds as follows. 1. Emergency preparedness is the responsibility of every citizen, and all citizens are urged to make preparedness a priority and work together to ensure that individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies of any type. 2. Participating in the National Preparedness Month will increase the number of citizens who understand which disasters could happen in our community, including diverse challenges from tsunamis to the increasing threat of wildfire. Participation will also help identify what steps and actions should be taken to enhance the level of preparedness for such disasters. 3. Taking steps toward personal preparedness and ensuring households, businesses, schools, and community organizations are prepared for disaster can reduce fatalities, economic devastation, and speed up recovery following a major crisis and lessen the impact of economic devastation. 4. The READY Campaign's 2023 National Preparedness Month campaign will focus on preparing older adults for disaster, specifically older adults from communities that are disproportionately impacted by the all-hazard events which continue to threaten this nation. 5, the Board of Commissioners would like to officially recognize all community partners, volunteers, and civic organizations who routinely offer their invaluable services to the community. Therefore, it is thereby resolved that 6th Tillamook County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims the month of September 2023 as National Preparedness Month in Tillamook County. And 7, the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners encourages all citizens and businesses to develop their own emergency preparedness plan and work together towards creating a more prepared society. And with that, I do move approval.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Randy.
Thanks,
Well,
Randy.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 7. Discussion and consideration of amendment number 2 to grant agreement number JR-23-026 for the Criminal Justice Commission Justice Reinvestment Grant Program. Lieutenant Ani Seaholm of the Sheriff's Office. Do we have Ani online with us today?
I think she's coming up.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Ani. Thank you.
Okay.
There she is.
Hey, this is,
Okay.
it's all working.
Oh, am I there now?
Great.
You
Yeah.
are. It took a minute for your photo to come up, but we see you. So wonderful.
Okay. Okay. So this is for our Justice Reinvestment Grant. Can you guys still hear me?
We can't
Yeah.
hear you. Go right ahead.
Okay, sorry. This is for the Justice Reinvestment Grant for the grant cycle 2021-2023. This is an amendment. Sorry, there's a lot of back noise, so I hope you guys can hear me okay.
We hear you.
This is for an amendment for remaining funds that we haven't spent on some of the programs that we had originally proposed. We have until the end of this calendar year to spend the money, and so we're moving some funds so we can cover some more housing, bus passes, and then the biggest shift in funds is to work with Portland State University National Policy Consensus Center to do an assessment of the local criminal justice system and look at cultural responsiveness and equity.
Wonderful. Okay, commissioners, questions or comments? And Ani, we can hear you fine. So if there's background noise,
Okay.
just keep talking because
Okay.
you're very clear. I apologize if we are not.
I don't have any questions. I fully support this and thank Ani for her work.
Perfect.
Yeah, these grants that we get from the state, Ani, they're really important, but they do tend to frown upon us when we don't spend all of the funds that have been granted. So it's important that you do that, and so I am in full support here.
As am I, and I'm really excited about the how the funds are being redirected to bring the, you said Portland State to come and look at our equity and our disproportionate usage in pieces that I know JRI is very focused on, really, and it will be great for us to have that assessment from an outside organization to help us see where we're doing really well and where adjustments and tweaks could help us do even better. So I think that's a great use of funds. Thank you for that. Okay, commissioners,
Ready
I
for a
think
motion?
we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 2 to grant agreement number JR-23-026 for the Criminal Justice Commission Justice Reinvestment Grant Program, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ani.
Thanks, Ani.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Okay, moving on to item number 8. Discussion and consideration of intergovernmental agreement number 15044 with Oregon Youth Authority for Individualized Services. Matthew Thinnell, Director of the Juvenile Department. Matt, are you with oh, there you are. We see you.
Hey, Matt.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can everybody see and hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So what you've got in front of you for your consideration is this is a slice of the biennial grant that is passed through to the county juvenile departments from the state to work with kids in the community. I'm getting a bunch of feedback on my end too. I'm not sure what's going on.
We hear you fine, man.
Anyway, this is for individualized services, and this is for a huge array of any type of expenses that might come up with the kids that we work with. There is some criteria for using it, but it's a pretty low bar, and it's not a lot of money either. I mean, this money has been used for anything from purchasing a bicycle for a kid to get from point A to point B to up to paying for offense-specific treatment services. So, again, this is just a small piece of a much larger grant that the counties get each biennium, and this is obviously for 23-25.
Thank you, Matt. Questions or comments, commissioners?
I do not.
Commissioner?
I'm in full support here, Matt, and just a shout out. Appreciate everything you do for the youth of Tillamook County.
Thank you.
The services you provide are really invaluable, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Perfect. Yes, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. And the individual services are important. I mean, the goal with any of the kids, obviously, that you have contact with is to make sure they get on the right path and stay on the right path ahead of being involved criminally. And those services can be such an important piece of that. So, appreciate that.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of intergovernmental agreement number 15044 with Oregon Youth Authority for individualized services, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, Matt, I think we have one more from you. Discussion and consideration of intergovernmental agreement number 15083 with Oregon Youth Authority for juvenile crime prevention, basic services, and diversion services. Matt.
Thank you. So again, this contract is for the large portion of the grant amount that is passed through to the county juvenile departments. This is dependent on, oh my gosh. Hang on one second. Is that better?
Again, we don't hear any feedback, so Deb, would it be possible for you, you can't mute the room or anything to...
Matt, just understand, we hear you fine. We don't hear any feedback, so just keep going.
Okay. Anyway, this is for the much larger piece of the statewide grant, of the biennial grant. This is for basic services and diversion services. Basic services are more, what we dedicate our basic services dollars towards is we pay for part of the salary for one of our bilingual staff to provide translation services. We also set some money aside to get reimbursed for detention costs. We also have a chunk of the basic set aside for shelter services, and then there's also just other types of services and things that we can pay for out of that money. The diversion portion of this goes entirely towards reimbursement for detention costs, and the diversion money has the detention already adjudicated through the juvenile court and are at risk of being committed to the correctional facility. So this is, again, a much larger pot of money, two bigger pots of money to try to keep kids in the community and prevent them from escalating to, needing to be committed to state care. I mean, I'm happy to answer questions if any part of that is not clear.
Thank you, Matt. Was the sound better? We muted the room while you were talking. Did that help? Okay, perfect.
Much better.
Okay, so thank you. We're all learning and on the fly here. So, commissioners, questions or comments for Matt?
I'm certainly supportive and grateful for the philosophy and for the intention to invest in prevention with juvenile crime and to invest in keeping our kids in the local community as opposed to in the state system. So I'm fully supportive of this effort.
Thank you.
I would agree with that fully. Keeping our kids in the community is the best thing for them. I think we get better care and better treatment and get their friends and neighbors to really apply some pressure to alter the behavior of youth that are on the wrong path. So, Matt, again, I appreciate everything you're doing here, and keep doing what you're doing.
Perfect, I agree.
Thank you.
We appreciate the partnership that the state, we have with the state for these funds to make some of these treatment services and other things available so that we can help kids be on the right path. So thank you for that. I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of intergovernmental agreement number 15083, again with Oregon Youth Authority for juvenile crime prevention basic services and diversion services, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 10. Discussion and consideration of a master retainage escrow agreement with the U.S. Bank National Association for an escrow account and sub-accounts. We have Sean Blanchard, our treasurer, in the room with us today. Thank you for coming out.
Yes,
Great
thank
job.
you, Matt. Good morning, Commissioners. Before you use the Master Retainage Escrow Agreement, House Bill 2415 was updated in 2019, effective January 2020, that if you have a contractor who you are paying over $500,000, you need to give them three options, either to be bonded or to set up an escrow account where the retainage up to 5% will be placed for them. They have the option of either choosing to be bonded, having the escrow account, they'll earn the interest, we pay the fees, or they earn the interest and they pay the fees. And we have a contract with the PC Woods Parking Management Plan that has reached that threshold. And so I am asking for your permission to sign the master agreement so that going forward I can set up the sub-accounts under this master account should we have any further contracts that reach that threshold.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments?
I do not, thank you.
So, Sean, is this the first one
This
that
is.
we've had that met that threshold?
We've had one other, but they chose to choose going with a bond.
Okay. All right. Thank you for what you do. I'm in full support.
As am I. There are so many things that we have to do financially to stay in compliance with all of the rules that come to government. I don't know that people realize the number of things that Sean has to keep in terms of balls in the air and balancing so that as our audits are done, we can have the clean audits we need to keep ourselves on the straight and narrow. So thank you. This is one of those many pieces that you just make sure happens for us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
I am ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a master retainage escrow agreement with U.S. Bank National Association for an escrow account and sub-accounts, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you,
Thanks, Sean.
Commissioners.
Okay, item 11, discussion and consideration of a notification to subcontract with Tillamook Family Counseling to provide developmental disability services in Tillamook County. We have William K. Sargent, County Counsel, on this one.
Thank you, Commissioner Scar. Every other year, for as long as I've been around.
That's a long time.
Yes, it is. We've entered into a contract with the state to provide developmental disability services to Tillamook County residents. I don't know if it was this year or the preceding year when I wasn't on board fully, but they made a modification where the state wants to know who are you going, if you're going to subcontract those services, who are you going to subcontract them to? And I thought, well, of course we're going to subcontract the Tillamook Family Counseling Center because that's what we've been doing for about as long as I've been here as well, but that I thought about might be a little presumptuous of me to do that, so it was made an item for your consideration. Frank Hanna Williams, the director of Tillamook Family Counseling Center, put together a little note that we can forward to the state that gives them the basic information about what he does, and then when they say, okay, you can subcontract, then we can bring the IGA with the state forward for your consideration. So if you would make a motion giving staff the authority to notify the state that we intend to subcontract with Tillamook Family Counseling Center, that'd be terrific, and we'll move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions and comments, commissioners?
Tillamook Family Counseling Center has a long-standing
excellent record of providing developmental disability services to Tillamook County residents, and I fully support continuing that relationship.
Perfect, thank you.
And I would concur. Unfortunately, in Tillamook County, we don't have a lot of options of people and organizations that can handle these types of things for Tillamook counties. It makes sense to me. It does.
Yeah, no, as it does to me, and I think one of the key things about this is that we as the county hold responsibility for ensuring these services are offered in our county. It is a mandated service for us, and OAR 411-360-0030 tells us exactly what has to be offered. And that includes things like a program manager, a services coordinator, adult abuse investigator, assessment analysis, eligibility specialist, an express analyst, which I happen to know is the payment system, Express, a direct referral coordinator, office administrator, and personal support worker coordinator. So these are all pieces that have to be in place in order for us to subcontract to an agency. So it is complicated. It does require a lot of different areas of expertise and quite a number of different staff positions. And so Tillamook Family Counseling has been doing this for years. They do have everything that's required, and I think it makes sense for us to continue to utilize them based on their good performance over the years. So, okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a notification to subcontract with Tillamook Family Counseling to provide developmental disability services for Tillamook County, I would move approval.
A second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Bill. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 12, which is discussion regarding the appointment of a person to fill a vacancy in the position of county clerk. And I asked that we put this on the agenda because I myself was confused. And I thought, if I'm confused, this is probably a conversation that we should have with one another and the public. So we have talked already that we are in the process of identifying a replacement for Commissioner Yamamoto, who is taking early retirement. And we've talked about the rather robust public process that we will have, because this is a decision we're making in lieu of a voter decision. And that is under the ORS that requires us to appoint someone. So I think we're all clear that that's rolling forward. Anybody, if this is the first you're hearing of it, we are accepting letters of interest and resumes. You can go to the Tillamook County homepage and find the link for the information that you need to express your interest in being a Tillamook County Commissioner to replace Commissioner Yamamoto for the roughly 1 year that will exist between his retirement date and the seating of a new commissioner from an election, which will take place in 24. So just that's going on in case you didn't know. But the second thing that has happened is that Tassie O'Neill, our county clerk for 33 years, or in the clerk's office for 33 years, has retired as of the end of August. And we will be appointing a replacement for the county clerk. There are also statutes that govern that say we shall appoint a clerk. And there's a difference in the process here. And the difference in the process is really related to the fact that the clerk's office has a deputy clerk. So the treasurer's office also has a deputy. They have a deputy treasurer. The assessor's office has a deputy assessor. The sheriff's office has an undersheriff. So all of those elected officials have someone that is naturally in the wings, if you will, and who is trained and has the same expertise and many of the same certifications and pieces required to do that job. And so when we do have a vacancy in one of those offices, we have the opportunity to appoint a well-qualified person from inside the organization. And that is our intent, as I understand it, for the clerk's office. And I felt before we made that appointment, it was important to have the public conversation because we're doing such a different process for the commissioner's office. Commissioners do not have deputy commissioners. We do not have someone that is ready to step into our role. So we do a public process for that one. Commissioners, are there things you would like to add to that in this conversation, just for the public's knowledge?
Absolutely. So in the offices that Commissioner Scar just mentioned, the other than commissioner, Tillamook County has a history of people working their way up through the ranks, and so it's intentionally that there are deputy positions in those offices, so that because those elected positions are working positions, so our clerk is a working clerk. If the public should choose to elect a clerk who is not expert in Oregon elections, we'll be in a world of hurt because we'll have to hire people to do the work. The clerk's position is a working position, and so I am fully supportive of appointing Christy Biggs, who has been our deputy clerk for 11 years. She's been in the office for 12 years, been a deputy clerk for 11 years. She does a great job. I have complete confidence in her, as does everyone else I've ever talked to about it. And so I'm pleased that she's willing to be appointed clerk, and then the public will have the opportunity to elect their new clerk in 2024. And also, I just want to take a moment to thank Tassie O'Neill for her long-standing excellent service as Tillamook County Clerk. She remains our clerk until August 31st, and I want to invite everyone to a retirement party for Tassie this Friday at the new Tillamook County Park, the Tillamook County Library Park, right next to the main branch library, on Friday from 1 to 3. We have generator noise in the background. I hope you can hear me. Retirement party for Tassie, Friday, 1 to 3.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner, I would just ask that you maybe speak up fairly loudly because something has revved up outside.
Surely. So I am in full agreement with everything that Commissioner Bell said. Christy is going to be a great clerk. She spent 11 years as deputy clerk in the clerk's office. She understands elections. She knows how to run elections. We have elections coming up in November, I believe, of this year. So it's going to be important that we have someone in place that really understands the operation of the clerk's office, and that's why they have deputies in the different elected officials, except for commissioners. Although I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea for commissioners to have deputy commissioners, so that they understand and they can help us in doing things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. I am leaving, but you might want to consider something like that. And they not here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Clearly, you were not present in the budget discussions regarding how we pay for what we have, let alone what we might want to add.
I'm just trying to be helpful here.
Helpful.
I am trying to be helpful.
That's a word.
So again, I'm in full support of making Christy Biggs our clerk, and I know she's going to do a terrific job.
Perfect, thank you. So this is not a decision item today. It was simply a discussion item to make sure that the board is operating with the transparency that we have promised the community. We wanted to have this conversation this week to prepare us to make that appointment, I think next week, or I think it's next week. So that will coincide with Tassie's retirement. If you find that you have further questions, please reach out to any of us at the Board of Commissioners to talk about that. But it's county precedence, I guess I would say. So thank you, Commissioners, for the conversation. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on to item 13, which is discussion and consideration of a grant application to the Oregon Department of Transportation's Community Charging Rebates Program. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, Rachel.
As part of the Kiwanis Corridor project that the county is implementing in Pacific City, we are starting with the reconstruction of the Cape Kiwanis parking lot. We started before summer. We went on a hiatus to avoid the peak tourist season, and then we're going to resume looking at September 18th. So part of the strategy there is to install 3 level 2 EV charging stations, which will each have 2 ports, so a total of 6 stations. And this opportunity through ODOT allows us to get a rebate up to $25,500. Our contract for the purchase and installation of the chargers is only $15,000 that we're paying Saunders Company. But this program allows us to recoup costs related to engineering, striping, overhead lighting. So once we get this rebate, the paperwork that follows the installation will have additional costs associated with it that hopefully gets us up to the $25,500. So it is ready for your consideration, and upon approval, I would submit this online.
Okay,
And then an additional bit of information, you approved the letter of interest to submit to Travel Oregon for the wayfinding plan. we were asked to submit a full application. I just heard
Oh,
that
good.
yesterday.
Great.
So that will be $100,000.
Wow,
Will
great.
come, full application will come before you before September 15th, I think.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah. Questions about the charging grant, commissioners?
I don't have questions. I'm glad we're moving forward with this, and certainly more and more people are getting electric vehicles, and we want people to be able to get the charging that they need, and that's the future, I think, of vehicles. So it's a good idea.
Agreed.
It absolutely is. The charging stations are becoming critical as more people buy EVs, and wherever they go now, they've got to look at a map to see how they're going to complete their trip, if it's over 200 miles, 300 miles, whatever. So I don't believe we have another charging station in South Tillamook County.
We are in a desert,
Right.
we call it. There are a
Right.
couple, I don't know what type, I believe at Hearts Camp, but I think that's for across the street.
That's
Yeah, but I
for
think
their
that's a private, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't believe there's any public.
Okay. Perfect. I mean, I am in full support here.
Perfect. Thank you. As am I, and I'm delighted there's a rebate to help us, be current in the world. So, thank you for that. I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a grant application to the Oregon Department of Transportation's Community Charging Rebates Program, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, Commissioners, board concerns.
Well, I should have said this while Jeff Gilbert was still in the room, but Jeff Gilbert, who is a coordinator for Orem, I don't remember his exact title, he was in the room earlier, he invited us to have this meeting here today and brought together all the resources for the Board of Commissioners to be able to meet out here at Able Readiness today, and I am very grateful for the effort that everyone put into for us to be able to have our meeting remotely and to be able to experience this amazing evacuation assembly point. So thank you to Orem and everybody who worked on this.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I would concur. I know as the Commissioner's Office was very concerned about our ability to do a remote meeting like this, basically in the middle of nowhere. And yet Orem stepped in and helped. Our own IS department is instrumental in making sure that everything is working. This has really worked far better than I anticipated. It is. So looks and what do they call this SAT system here? ComSat. We actually have one of these. It belongs to the county, and so we are prepared. We are. So if we need a remote meeting from some hilltop to get us out of the tsunami, well, this is actually out of the tsunami inundation zone, which is great. But if there is a localized event where we need to conduct a meeting, we have that capability now, and we know it will work. So this is a great test of the county's preparedness to make sure that this board can continue to operate and do things that need to be done at the county level. So that's a great thing to happen also, the knowing that we have these capabilities. So thank you, David, and thank you to Orem for making sure that we can put all the pieces together and make it work.
Absolutely. I agree. Other than whatever they keep revving up out there, which I hope is not completely obliterating the sound. So I'll look forward to listening to this recording to find out how much that impacts us, because I think that is important. You think about if it was pouring down rain today and that was beating on the tent, you have all these questions, right? Which is why we do these things, as we've talked about, so we can see how things affect them. But yes, definitely appreciate the opportunity to be out here. Anything else, Commissioner? Nope. I'm going to bring up one more thing, and that is related to water shortages in Tillamook County. We are starting to hear a lot of different information from both our water systems that are putting out notifications asking people to please be thoughtful and careful in their water usage, to individuals who are reporting that their wells have run dry and that this is a new experience for them or one they haven't had in 20 or 30 years. And I want to bring this up because I want people to know that there are a couple of different point people that you can talk to on this. For some of our water systems, you work closely with Jamie Craig on a regular basis. You can report to her any concerns that you may be having if that's where you feel like the relationship is where you want to talk to someone. Alternately, if you work more closely with Randy Thorpe, who is our emergency manager, you can reach out to Randy. If you are someone who has a well that has dried up and you need water, please reach out to Randy Thorpe. We have communication and contact with Orem, who's here today. They have a water program. They can actually deliver water for those whose wells have run dry. So we are learning quickly what many of our fellow counties in southern and eastern Oregon already know about the effects of drought and about what supports are there for individuals and systems that are impacted. So if you are one of those individuals or one of those systems, please reach out so that we can both get the information so we understand the impact across our county and can support you in making sure that you have the water you need. So just wanted to throw that out there, more to come as we gather more information, but it's new to us, the idea of drought on the North Coast. We always worry about having way too much water, and we are currently in this dry, hot summer experiencing something very different. So, okay, commissioners, there are no other concerns. I will read our board announcements, and we'll go from there. The board briefing scheduled for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 2 p.m. has been canceled. The commissioners will hold a workshop on Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 2 p.m. with John Upton for a quarterly report on Tillamook County's retirement plan. The teleconference number is 1-877-853-5247, meeting ID 939-7083-5127, passcode 336561. Labor Day is an observed holiday for the county and Oregon State Circuit Court. All county offices in the Tillamook County Courthouse, the Tillamook County Library, administrative offices in the Jail and Justice Facility, Public Works Department, Department of Community Development, Surveyor's Office, and the Health and Human Services Department and clinics will be closed on Monday, September 4th, 2023. Okay, that concludes our agenda today. So with that, we will adjourn our meeting at 10:17. Thank you, everyone.